the Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings, Waste Management, Phoenix Open, DraftKings picks, and preview the final betting card, the weather. Hopefully we nail it, but it works out in our favor this time instead of the opposite thing trying to happen to us. Plus a breakdown of the one and done and where we're going. You want to play in the best tournament on DraftKings. I don't believe it's full yet, but it's getting close. The Pat Mayo Experience Listeners League down in the description right now, completely rake-free, so I suggest you go do that, pulling all my stats and generating all my lineups from FantasyNational.com. FantasyNational.com/Mayo will get you 20% off any of the membership levels, and since today is Wednesday, today is the way to do it if you want to test it out on the weekly, because you get Wednesday through Wednesday, so you get all this week, and then all next week for the Genesis Invitational as well. So get a 2-for-1 at FantasyNational.com/Mayo and RunTheSims.com for the Super Bowl completely free this week if you want to go check that out. Generate your own lineups, generate your own projections. Use the site built on 10,000 simulations. Toe Tag and Tampo in studio. You're back. I owe you $200.
Use FantasyNational.com/Mayo. Find the course fits, right? That's what we do.
Find the course fits.
That was funny. I mean, back and forth on it. Is in the end, Pat, the answer was
all four of them.
Yeah, just play them all. that was the point. I mean, we were battling. It was a blowout by 20 points, and your guys were, I think, both T20. It was Higo and Benny fell down a little bit, but still.
Oh, big theme with my guys on the Monday. That I'm like, all right, I'm in pretty good position here. I showed you I had a 6 of 6 in the $150 and didn't cash.
Yeah, it was a brutal Monday for me as well. I don't know. I could not get into the event last week. I don't know why. Maybe it was the excitement of this one coming up. Maybe it's the fact there was an off week with no football, so I just wasn't dialed into the sports spectrum as much. But dialed in going into the week, felt good about everything, was crushing until I wasn't. All my guys on Monday came out and decided to make bogeys and pars. The guys behind me decided to make birdies, eagles, streaks, bogey-free rounds, and there was another Fantasy Golf World Championship seat gone. So back to the grind this week. Nobody cares, work harder. Like I always say, we'll get back to it and try and find one this week at one of my favorite events of the entire season.
Yeah, I like your Tom Kim. We'll talk about Tom Kim in a second, but I like what you were saying about that. But my bets for the week, the final betting card, nothing much has really changed. From Monday, for me, I added one bomb, and then I had to bite on Sam Burns because I thought the number was just too good.
Nice.
I'm a sucker for a good number.
What did you get it at?
55.
Nice. I like it.
So Justin Thomas, 24-1. Colin Morikawa, 25-1. Hideki Matsuyama, 41-1. Sam Burns, 55-1. I had KH Lee from earlier at 130-1. And I played Davis Thompson on the each way extra at 175-1 with 10 places. So, come inside the top 10. We're having a good week. I selected in our mini one and done Xander Schauffele. Jeff took Colin Morikawa, and Cust took Tom Kim.
Cust is hot, coming off a win.
Well, you see what he did. He picked Justin Rose. Justin Rose was fading, and he bogeyed number 1, and then Cust put out that there's no way that Justin Rose could win, and
reverse the reverse.
Reverse the reverse. Yeah. He's learning.
Can't triple stamp a double stamp, I heard one time, but he did it, and he found a way to get there, and Justin Rose crossed the finish line, so good for him. It was it's crazy to see him win after I guess we should have looked at him more. He'd been on a bit of a run. You just kind of had to think through it. We're going to talk about guys this week that fit the mold of that with Hideki, Ricky, Jason Day, guys like that. Obviously, Rose not coming through here after the win. He said he was going home, so he did. But, yeah, good week for Cust. Good week for Justin Rose.
Wish I had a better week. I actually had a lot of – it's funny because I was playing the dodge on the withdraw game on Saturday. It's are my guys going to because I had Mav in so many lineups, and he hurt his shoulder. He's playing this week, though, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, yeah, so he's fine.
We're hoping those quotations are correct, I think, because the price is very good on Mav this week.
The price is good, and no one's going to want to play him because he's injured.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I don't know whether or not I want to play him. I guess we'll get into that. You looked at the weather. Like I said last week, we kind of nailed when the rough part was going to come. That actually held true. I tried to design some stuff. At least everyone bet on the Fitzpatrick miscut.
I got screwed on that.
Yeah,
I wasn't allowed to bet it. And I was like, I know I was still playing him because I told everybody, same as always, in full transparency, I'm playing him because he's going to be lower owned.
I played him too.
Everything that he had said was fine. And he actually had, I think, 5 birdies on round 2. Like, it wasn't like he was horrible. And then it turned in round 3, of course, and then the wind and all those factors. But yeah, I could not get the money down on that at 16-1. That was hurtful.
I can't believe they stopped play.
Yeah. By the way, Justin Rose was the culprit there. He was the one who got them to stop play and ended up winning. That's in the script. That was in the script last week. Justin Rose tells him to stop the tournament so that he can have everything in his favor and go on to win. That was the true script for the PGA last week.
Did all your guys suck on the final 2 holes of every round like my guys did?
Yes, literally. That's so at the end of the crossover to Monday, I was winning a Fantasy Golf World Championship seat. I was up there pretty much the whole weekend. The $44, it was a dual seat winner. It was 2 seats up top, and it was set up so I had Hardy, Hostler, Bramlett was like the 3 main value plays, and then it had Rose and whatever else in it, and Keith Mitchell, and all of them did basically nothing except Rose winning, but everyone up top already had Rose, so he didn't matter. It was the Brandon Wu can't miss and makes eagles, and other guys had bogey-free rounds, all these other factors where my guys just could not come through, so we move on. But yeah, it was definitely like that. And then of course you talked about it, I forgot that, but just the withdraw dodging on Saturday, Sunday, whatever it was going into it, and then the talks of the big Monday queue for the Waste Management Phoenix Open that people want to get to because the designated event, and hard to get alternates in too because they still cap it, they ceiling it out. So even with this week, we've had John Huh, Lanto Griffin, Rose not taking his spot, Nick Hardy still not in the field because it still requires another person to WD, and we haven't seen it yet. So knock on wood, we'll keep an eye on it, but it just is interesting. It was an interesting dynamic, at least for last week, going into it, seeing who would actually finish out the rounds.
I can only ever recall weather mattering at this course in 1 round ever. The year that Ricky won, that Grace was making the chase. As you had mentioned to me previously, I think Jeff and I talked about it on Monday when he plunked it in the water on 17. That was just the end of it. But Ricky was coming back to the pack. He made a triple at one point. It was just rainy.
Oh, he did the drop, remember? And it was the ruling. He forgot that you have to still stand by, and then the thing falls down and he loses another stroke.
Yeah.
It was just a bad scene for Ricky, but he got the job done in the end.
Well, Ricky's going to be a hot topic, I think, this week. Pretty overpriced, I think.
Yeah.
Well, when you take a look at his DraftKings pricing. But so no weather you looked at it really to speak of?
Nothing that I'm going to see for the first couple of days. Weather, I mean, temperatures start a little light for Arizona, but then pick up. They're similar both days. Winds pretty similar, 7 to 13 miles per hour. No big gusts over 20, anything like that to worry about. As of now, looks that way, and it's most likely going to stay that way. The weather isn't usually the case. You talked about with the Ricky year, but over the weekend, first you got to get your guys to make the cut. We're going to try and help you with that. But the part is over the weekend, it usually does, and that's pretty standard out there, going a lot of times myself, baking out. Green's getting faster. Wiley, our guy, showed the Ollie Schneider Jans put it off the green. That's always a classic clip. We had that up on his Twitter. I thought that was funny to bring that memory back. But yeah, you're going to see it pick up over the weekend and get a little tougher, most likely.
All right, we made a little bit of a move in one and done between our team last week. We ended up on Denny McCarthy, and no one, I think he was 2% owned or something like that in the giant race for the Mayo Cup. So we vaulted up to 1,358th place. So at a 4,400, I guess we're in the top 25 percentile. I have one team that's almost in last, which is hilarious. Yeah. But the other 3 teams are looking all right. So where are you thinking we want to go this week? Obviously, with $20 million in the purse, $3.6 million to the winner. I mean, getting one winner here is more valuable than hitting the winner basically at 3 events in a row coming into it.
Yeah. This is where you get a back pat. You said you're at the back of the pack. This is where you can move up. For us, I love the Denny call last week. You talked me into it on the show live, and I said, well, let's do it. And sure enough, over the weekend, we were texting back and forth. I was like, that's a pretty good call. Like, we're gonna be in okay shape here. He had a good week. We'll talk about him later.
Did he come 3rd or 2nd?
I think it was 2nd. Or no, sorry, I think it was T4 actually.
T4?
Yeah, just the way it shook out up at the top.
I just saw Wu came in 2nd. I was like, oh yeah. I just stopped paying it because we were doing the show live as it was going on Monday. I was like, I don't give a shit about this tournament anymore. Yeah. I'm not winning.
I forget what the 3rd was, but I know T4 included Malnati. I believe Denny was in that mix as well. So.
I was rooting for Malnati because I saw a bunch of people with 250 to 1 Malnati tickets. Like, well, if I can't win, I'd like to see someone hit a 250 to 1. That'd be awesome. The each way's all paid on it though.
Yeah, that was very good. Malnati, but others had him 175, but yeah, solid.
I think Kenny had him, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I don't know though. He just got each ways there, so I don't know if he had an each way or if he took him on a top 5, but he did have Malnati. He was definitely rooting for him.
So I'm trying to piece together from the top of the board because I want to go with an elite player. Obviously, I have no idea who's going to be the most popular this week in terms of one and done. It's probably going to be Xander if I had to guess. But it could be any one of like 4 or 5 different players, depending on how this shakes out. I would guess of all of the top 10 players, Finau or Hovland will be the lowest.
Yeah. One thing is interesting that you said that I think is interesting, ties to everything we're going to talk about today, is about the elite players. This time last year, Scheffler had none of those wins. This was the beginning of the run, beating Cantlay in the playoff and doing that. Max Homa, fine, but his big run well after this, going into the Genesis and all from there. Tony Finau. who still was like top 10 Tony, and then all of a sudden gets all the way. So all these guys that now are up here, and we'll tie in when we talk in a minute, it's funny that none of them really had as much going for them until Scheffler won at this event and sort of kicked off the season as we're about to do this week. So it's tough to say. I don't love Hovland. I don't think you could sell me on him.
I agree with you. I'm just saying that those are the two.
No, it makes sense.
Off the radar choices. I don't know if I like either one of them.
Yeah.
I was thinking about just fuck it, going with Scotty.
I was going to just say that and go back to Scotty too, but I would guess, the only other guy I thought of, so Morikawa I think should be popular.
Yes.
And he's going to be popular in DFS this week.
I think he's the most bet on guy this week.
Yeah,
too.
and 25 was a bit crazy when you look at everything else that goes with it, but just the thought of how this thing could play out, you got to bet it, I think, at 25-1. Like you said, I love that. I couldn't get it near that number, so I didn't, but I'm just saying I get why people bet it. But what about JT?
I mean, I bet JT to win, so yeah. I'm on board with him winning this event.
How popular do you think? Not that it matters that much early in the season and one and done all those factors. I'm just curious what you think of him coming in. How are people viewing JT? Because it will tie as well to what we're going to talk about in a little bit here.
I don't know, because ownership looks relatively flat. Are you seeing the same thing for DraftKings?
I'm seeing a bunch more on Morikawa, Cantlay than I am on a guy like JT or Homa.
So I'm seeing right now, Cantlay, Morikawa, Xander as like the 3 and the
Xander
9K range.
Yep.
And that usually translates over into the one and done. But you also I don't think many people are going to use Rory.
I don't think so either.
Would you use Rory?
You could. Because here's the thing about Rory. Even with Scotty, it's hard to peg. It's hard to go back to back too, but also it's, if the course sets up well, you think it's going to be good in his favor. But the Rory thing, everyone always has a place they save someone for. Rory, you could save him for anywhere. Yeah. What are you saving for? You say you are saving him for something if you want, but this is a designated event. Do you think it's here that he comes through? Then just play him, because you could make a case for Rory at any course in the world, like Rahm.
What are the other elevated events this year? Heritages, right?
Heritages, for sure.
Heritage is interesting because I think you could get away with using a non-elite player at Heritage, because I think that field is just more wide open because of the course. Yeah. Not to say that Rahm won't win, but you might end up with one of the Kevin Kisners of the world doing something at that course. You just have to be able to find who the right ones are going to be. And then other than that, is it Travelers?
Well, we're coming up here on the run. So it's Genesis, API, Players, of course, Match Play, of course, Masters. And then it's RBC Heritage, Wells Fargo, the Major, the PGA, the Memorial, US Open. Then it's Travelers. Then it goes Open Championship in the playoffs.
Okay.
So, the prize pools at some of these majors are to be determined, but it shows like 25 million at the Players is the biggest one as usual, and then the other ones that look like 20. So, yeah, this run that we're about to go on here, Waste Management, Genesis, API.
So, the guys...
I guess you could say Rory API. Sorry to cut you off, but I do think that's a positive spot for him always, pretty much.
So, we cannot, on our team, use Hideki, Burns, or Justin Thomas. I burned Justin Thomas the week you weren't here.
Okay.
Didn't work.
I do remember that. Didn't work.
Out.
Yeah, I don't mind that. So I guess I would lean with the Scotty take then. Even though it's crazy to think about a back-to-back, it's not that crazy. It's golf. It happens. We saw it a bunch of times last year.
So just looking at availability right now, Cantlay's been used in 9% of leagues, Finau 17% of leagues, Homa 13% of leagues, Sungjae 20%. Because Sungjae, I think, is actually a pretty good pick as well. What do you make of Homa for one and done? Do you think that people will not go back to him because he just won? Because this is still a great course for him.
Yeah, I just don't think people are going to play him here, especially when Genesis is also a designated event that they can just use him at Riv. Like that, to me, makes more sense.
So Scotty it is?
Scotty, or who is it? There was one guy you said before Homa.
Sungjae?
No, Cantlay.
Cantlay.
That's who you mentioned. What are we saving Cantlay for?
I don't know. Can I go the entire year without using him just as a protest that I don't like him?
Possibly. I don't know. I don't actually mind him either. So one of those two would be what I'd be most comfortable with, whoever you like.
Let's go with Scotty.
Yeah.
I need something on Scotty here. I like Scotty, and I'm not betting him at 12-1.
Yeah, I definitely like Scotty. We were going to talk about him anyway, but yeah, he's another guy that you can just play, no problem.
DraftKings for the week. Again, playing the Listeners League. That's down in the description right now. What do you think is going to be, if we try to just set out to build the play the best plays lineup, and then we'll alter it from there, where do you think the best way to start this is? Because I think that if you really wanted to do it, you could go Xander, Morikawa, Cantlay to start. If you wanted to. That leaves you 7,000 left, and you said that the sixes pretty bountiful this week.
There is guys in the sixes. I think the sixes lean more to getting to the Rahms, Rorys of the world. Where I would actually start for the play the best plays is, I'm pretty sure you'll know this, but you've seen this 7K range. Now, it's loaded, but there's definite guys. So we talked about this on a previous show where it used to be, Pat, the 6K range has a guy that gets to 10%. You just avoid it like the plague because it's too owned for what that range is. This year, though, the way the pricing's been set up, the 7K range has converted to that, and you'll get at least one, if not a couple plays. And this week, I think with Keith Mitchell, Brian Harmon, Hoagie, if you will, like those guys are the guys that are getting the ownership here. There's just no question that it's going to be those guys because the price is extremely low. I think Harmon at 7,400. I think Mitchell at 7,400. And I think
Steele at 7,200 is just a legitimately good play.
Yes, he is. To me as well. So, I mean, he's a good play, but I'm saying if you want to first look at what people are doing, you can look at it from the ownership. Harmon, Mitchell, Hoagie, and then I think even Keegan Bradley, man. What do you see on Keegan?
Right now on Keegan, how much is Keegan?
He is 7,700.
It's a good price. 10%.
Very fair price, yeah. So
10% with Connors being at like 12%. I like Connors this week too. I think everyone kind of does. He's been playing some pretty good golf to start the season, just hasn't popped anywhere yet.
Yeah. I'm just trying to see. So even if I put Keegan and Hoagie.
Poston is getting a ton of ownership, it looks like.
Yeah, Poston's getting some too, yep.
I have him higher than Steele right now, which is kind of crazy to think about. The other one, Hayden Buckley at $6,800, seems to be the guy in the sixes that everyone is gravitating towards.
Hayden Buckley, yeah. So we could put him into this and take out Keegan and Hoagie.
So if I take out Mitchell and play Buckley instead, here's what we end up with.
No, you got to have Mitchell in the best plays lineup, though.
Do you?
Yeah, oh yeah. He's going to be like 15% plus. He just crushed last week at 9,100 or enough that people are going to go to him. So Harmon, Mitchell, Buckley.
Okay, so I did this a little bit differently because I went a bit more balanced. So here is what I would construct as a play the best plays, like cash gamey lineup. Although having Corey Connors in it is kind of crazy to think about a cash game lineup, but we know the ball striking is good. 3 9K guys. Hideki, Cantlay, and Sungjae with Buckley, Mitchell, and Connors. And if you wanted to go lower than Connors, let's say you wanted to use Poston or one of the other popular guys, you wanted to change Connors into Steele, you could take Sungjae up to Morikawa.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what I think sort of the cash game guys will do and just look at it from that perspective. So if I go Harmon, Mitchell, Buckley to start, then you have almost 9,500. And if Cam Young, who we'll talk about in a second, is going to be popular, it's like JT Morikawa. I don't know if that won't be the way people go, but I'm just looking at what others might do. Xander and
I think Xander is a very logical starting point for a lot of people this week.
So this would be this would look like a cash game lineup to me. Cantlay was literally in a playoff last year. He's somewhat underpriced at 9,500. So you look at this. Xander, Cantlay, the two best friends, Cam Young at 8,900, underpriced, if you will, and then it leaves you Harmon, Mitchell, Buckley. That's probably fine, and that's probably kind of where you'd see people end up.
I don't love that.
I don't. I'm just saying that's where I'm looking at it from the perspective of who do people see as underpriced. Xander versus the 4 guys above him, probably. Cantlay, if I could get to Morikawa, and you can, there's easily a way to change this around to get there just to show the difference. But yeah, I definitely think this could be a way people go, or starting with Xander would be, all this to tell me, I guess better way to put it, Pat, is people starting with Xander is probably still popular this week. Even though you have people are like, ownership always gets spread in these softer priced, strong field type events, but Rory, Rahm, etc. will get some. Scheffler, Finau will get a bit squeezed. People will start with X. Maybe the interesting way to go about it would be like X as your second guy in.
I would wager, I don't know if you want to take my wager on this because you might see the same thing, that Xander is probably more owned than the 4 guys above him. Like I could see maybe Rahm, if people have a distinct lean on Rahm versus Rory, and they lean one way like in masses, but I can see those 2 guys splitting the difference. I can see Scotty kind of being on their tails. Finau is clearly going to be the lowest owned of those 4, and then everyone's just going to start with Xander.
Yeah, currently how I have it is Rahm and Roy are splitting the difference at the top, closer to that 20% range. Then I've got Scotty taken in that 12 to 15 range. Maybe he comes on the high side, maybe the low. Like you said, he's tailing him. Finau around 10%. We'll see where that ends up. And then Xander I had at 18. So I don't have him as the highest yet, but I could see it based on just looking at what we just did, where it ends up getting up there because of that reasoning.
Well, and it depends on how comfortable people feel down in the lower part here. Yeah. So like I mentioned, Hayden Buckley seems to be the one driving all the ownership in the 6Ks. He's the only guy I can see that's projected over. I mean, Vegas, it says 7%. He's not going to be 7%.
No.
So, but Callum Tarrant, Matthew Neesmith are popular names, but if any of them get to 5%, I'll be super stunned. So it looks like it's going to be Buckley that will push right around 10%. And then you have to go up to Steele and Poston at $7,200 and $7,300 as the next sort of chalkier guys. And then you have the Keith Mitchell, Brian Harmon, as you mentioned, K.H. Lee, Tom Hoagie, that range of players. But now we're at $7,500. So if that's the case, Rahm and Rory and Scheffler kind of become casualties to that because, I can play Rahm and Hayden Buckley, or I can play Justin Thomas and Corey Connors, or someone even better than that.
Yeah, and I agree, and that's why I was trying to look earlier when you talked about, like, I'm going to do the Poston version just to give you can finish it out, but when you go, we'll just say Buckley is our guy at 68 that people are playing, you got Poston at 73, Mitchell and Harmon, now you have 10,550 left. So now it is Xander and Rahm, and you could play that.
What was it again? Say that again.
So if you go back, all I did was switch. I had Cam Young with Cantlay and Xander. You have to take out Cam Young and go down as far as Poston, and then you move out Cantlay and go up to Rahm. So it's Young, Cantlay versus Rahm, Poston. The difference is the Rahm, Poston, well, you don't have Young and Cantlay. Sounds pretty damn good on paper. And like you said, you don't love it, is now you get Xander as your second guy in. And you get an elite up above in Rahm, and you could do it that way. Or you could take out Rahm and Poston and say, no, Rory's my guy. I'll go to Scheffler in a second. But then you would get like a Noren who do you like of these three, actually? It's a good group to ask you about. Noren, Wise, or Power, if you had to pick one. It's not the best.
I don't like either one.
If I add in Hoagie, would you just say, screw it, I'll take Hoagie then?
I think is Keegan too much?
Keegan's too much. We'll go to that.
Keegan's too much. I think I'd take K.H. Lee.
Okay, and just drop down and leave.
Drop down to 75. Like, just of that group of 75 and 76, he is my favorite of that range.
And so that's with Rory, Xander, but now you take out KH and Rory, you go to Scotty, and now you actually have 8,100. Now, there's your Ricky. Here's our segue. See, I got you there. The segue to the Ricky Fowler conversation. Fleetwood's there, but I guess that's another range. It's going overlooked completely, Pat, but Hatton, Montgomery, Lowry, maybe a little bit of talk, but Fleetwood, Ricky.
Day is
popular.
Day is the one who I'm seeing garnering the ownership from that range until you get down to Keegan and Connor. So you have Siwoo, Horschel, Day, Fowler, Fleetwood, Lowry from 82 to, like, it's just a little mini range. No one really wants any part of it. I can almost guarantee you one of these guys is in the winning lineup. Yeah. No idea which one. Probably Horschel, because he'll probably be the lowest owned.
Yeah, I don't know. The Ricky thing is interesting because a couple things. Ricky, Hideki, Tom Kim. Three guys that to me are very narrative, storyline based. With Ricky and Hideki, we know the history. The 2 wins for Hideki, the one for... What is it? One for Ricky and then a close call? I can't remember.
Ricky has the win. He lost to Hideki in the playoff.
That's what it was the other time. And he's got other good history here as well back in the past. But just to say that out loud, like those two are based on that and then showing a little flash this last event out. So then that was like we talked about on that show. It was like the perfect storm of course, Ricky and Hideki show a flash right before we're about to get to Phoenix. And now
I have more confidence in Hideki playing well.
As do I, and he's only $800 more. So it's not like you're breaking the bank to go up to get to... Hideki's actually 9,400. I thought he was 88. Who's at 88 this week? Nobody. That was maybe last week's price or last time's price. But just in general, you got that thought. And then the Tom Kim one I brought up earlier, I said it myself on Monday with Kenny. Like, I do envision this guy, and Kenny brought it up too. Like, no one really knows who Tom Kim is outside of our bubble, right? Like, the general public's not tuning in for the President's Cup with all that hype. People saw it on Twitter, in golf Twitter, and us that follow it a bunch, just like my take on this new documentary coming out. We're going to love it the most. We love Tom Kim the most. Not many know about him as much. He's got a great group this week. The PGA is setting him up to sort of have this as a coming out party. I joke that maybe it's him making the hole-in-one on 16, the old Tiger press. Maybe
that's the script.
That's the script. If that happens, it's definitely scripted, and we already know it is. So, of course, that's what's going to happen. But I do think it is interesting that he's really popular this week. Betting, myself included, I bet him and feel bad about it already, and playing in DFS based on the narrative that he's the fun guy. This is the perfect atmosphere for him. We know he's good at golf. He's excellent at it, but I'm just saying, when you bring that in, is he really the best play at 9K this week?
No, he's not.
So
he could. I mean, listen, he could be.
It's Tom Kim. Could be.
Like if it's Tom Kim, and this is I appeared on Joe's show on Monday, Preferred Lines. Everyone should go check that out. We kind of had an argument of if they were the same price, who would you play? Max Homa or Justin Thomas. Take ownership out of it, take price out of it. You get to play one guy or another guy. I would just play Justin Thomas every time.
Yeah, same. I watch shows, great. Love Joe's stuff. Love anytime you're on with him, it makes it even better when you push him back.
I get his argument, though, because Homa's been prolific.
But that's what I was saying at the top of this that I don't hear enough people talking about this week is like Scheffler, Finau, Homa. This time last year, you were not really talking about them. Yes, Scheffler was in the mix already. We knew something's going to come up with him. Homa, we'd had our fair share of comments on Twitter, and everyone's his best friend, and we all tweet him, and this guy's great. We love him. But it wasn't like these runs from all these guys came after. And this one even started. Like Scottie Scheffler had nothing going for him yet until he won this and then went on that massive run. He had a lot going for his future, but I'm saying we weren't talking about him in the same way we would now that he's put a green jacket on. What was it, 4 wins total? Sam Burns, another one. We didn't talk about him. You talk about betting him.
Sam Burns has 4 wins in the past 2 years. Let's not forget. None of them are great wins.
Yeah, but
they're wins.
And going back at Valspar, I don't think it's that easy to do.
No, it's a tough course.
Yeah, so I mean, like, there's definite thing winning in front of Scottie Scheffler there with the way he did, making that 38-footer in front of him as Scottie's standing there like this, and he drops it in front of him and says, "Your turn, buddy, down the hill, 45 feet." He's got balls himself, so I think that's kind of what you got to think about coming in here, Pat. I'm still with you. I'm going to side with JT, but Max Homa has turned the heads. He's now that guy. He's now out there. He's got the wins. He's been doing it. So I got no problem for anyone that wants to go there. I guess when I look at stuff like just using the comparison in DFS, because we're still there, going with it, man, it actually is closer than expected because everyone's boosted him now. He's got that skill level. The books boosted him. He's on the radar now. It's not someone that you're going to get under the radar.
No, exactly. There is one player that I don't know what to do with. I really want to play him, but nothing suggests that he's going to be any good. And when I was doing my research for this, I went back and watched the last 4 years of every round highlights, which is something. Just walk on the treadmill, turn on YouTube. It's all up there now. It's fantastic. I forgot that this is where the Spieth comeback started. He shot that 61 on Saturday. He pulled into the lead. Obviously, Brooks ended up winning in 2021.
Yeah.
But, he was horrible. To even hear the commentary on the Spieth shots from the CBS crew is kind of hilarious. That looks like vintage Jordan Spieth. They were talking about him like he was a legitimate scrub.
Yeah. Well, he was.
And he was. But then he came 4th in Phoenix, then 3rd, 15th, 4th. 48th, 1, and then he was 3rd at the Masters. It restarted this version of Spieth. Now, he hasn't hit that level since really this sort of time last year. It's been hit or miss for him, but he might be 2-3% owned this week.
Yeah, I still have him just a little higher than that. I had him at 6, but I still don't have him as a play.
You could see how he could get squeezed, though, right?
Oh, he's getting squeezed. There's no doubt. He's between Cam Young, Burns, and then the range of going above and below.
I think Burns is a better play than Spieth. He's cheaper. He's also not going to be very highly owned. But you have Fitzpatrick right there at 9,000 too, who legit no one's playing.
Yeah, well, Fitzpatrick, the neck injury did pan at the end. By the end of the tournament, it wasn't good. So he obviously fits this course well. I'm definitely going to play him. Are you playing
Fitzpatrick?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, $9K, and he's $100 more than Cam Young. You can differentiate some that way. And like I said, from Monday, everyone knows when you follow my stuff, full transparency across the board. I go through what I do, and then on the premium show, we even talk exposures and stuff over on Pure Sports. But as of right now, without building everything out, I like Tom Kim on Monday. I don't like him as much right now. I just don't. I think that with Sungjae Im, Cantlay, Morikawa, JT, Homa, even there's all guys above him that I could play instead. And then I like Fitzpatrick. I like Young. I like Burns. I like some of these low 8K guys that others don't like. I'm gonna play Hatton at 8,400.
Okay, so this is interesting. What do you make it? Okay, let's just very quickly go one by one. Burns, I am playing. I bet on Burns. Mm-hmm. And I think that out of all of these guys, he's probably the most likely to win of all of the 8K guys. He might be the guy who could come in last, too. He's that sort of player.
What do you think he's going to be owned? That's the question. Does the bet
7%?
Yeah, that to me would be.
It's hard to get to guys in this range because everyone is getting to Cam Young.
Yeah.
At $8,900. And then
this is what I never get, though. Again, Cam Young could be the guy where he's the best example to the Scottie Scheffler. We know his talent. When I said earlier, it wasn't. We knew who Scottie Scheffler was. We were waiting for the breakout, and this kicked it off. This cracked the seal, and then he took off from there. That could be Cam Young at this event. But to your point, and our bets, because I'm in with you on Sam Burns and this range in general, Sam Burns has the wins. We do this all the time in
Sam
strong
Burns
fields
is
at majors.
55-1. Cam Young is 28-1.
Right.
Something's
One
off.
guy won
Something's
4
off there.
times and beat these guys that we're talking about, like Scotty Scheffler, heads up. And then now we're here at $300 less and way less ownership, and the odds don't match up. Sure. But I'm going to play that every time. And that's especially in strong fields, Pat. We talk a lot about strategy, going through it, majors, strength, high strength of field, things like that. This is oftentimes the conversation. It's harder with a Homa JT one, to your point with you and Joe going back. There's probably not a right side.
They're both great.
They're both great, and Homa has joined the conversation. Here, Cam Young, we expect him to join the conversation. He was very close to 2 majors last season. He was leading on hole 15 before the Mito meltdown, and then he made the eagle that he was required to make on 18 at the Old Course.
And don't forget, he got up and down on that par 4 to win you 100K.
He did do that. I love Cam Young. Yes, that was a great 95K swing in my favor. I'll forever be grateful to Cam Young. But again, we know, comparing him to, kind of apples to apples last year to this year, he is that guy. But that's the challenge. Why can't you go to Sam Burns? And why aren't people going to Sam Burns at 8,600 as much?
Oh, bad form.
Sucks at this course is a common
Sucks
thing.
at this course. He's one of, but it's no different than, I remember and listen, it's going to work some years, it's not going to work some years, but the year Finau came in second, no one played Finau because Finau sucks at this course.
Yeah.
Lost in a playoff. Like, good players can show up and play well at courses. I'm not, when it comes to course history, I think there are courses that do lend itself towards that. Because
Masters, Sony.
Pebble is another one.
Pebble, yeah.
Too. There's something about that event, the style of course, the style of event, 3 separate rounds.
Pro-Am.
It's generally a weak field, pro-am, huge, super long rounds. There are some courses that are more conducive to that than others. If I was really going to try to search out course history and make that the thing that I was going to say, I'm going to play this guy or fade this guy because of it, that's generally going to be in the lower 7s and 6s. If I need a reason to play someone down there, that's a reason I can point to.
Yeah.
It's not going to get me off Sam Burns, who might suck this week, but I also know that he can win.
Yeah, and you bring that up because it was a good example. Remember the course history lineup? I forget, it was a week or 2 ago, but with Streelman and with a bunch of guys that...
How did that go? Good?
It didn't go well. No, most of them didn't come through. That's like I said, with the elites, anything can happen. And that was my point earlier with the Finau and Burns conversation. That's why I wanted to bring him into it. I said Finau, Scheffler, Homa, Burns would be the 4 that I would talk about this with, where I really don't care about their course history because to me, Sam Burns, even Scheffler, is now a different golfer. Finau's closed a bunch more. All these factors. Homa, Burns is another one. They all slide into that same bucket for me. I'm going to play them in tournaments.
So everything that people are projecting as this year's Scheffler, because it feels like that's what everyone's looking for with Cam Young.
Definitely.
Is Cam Young this year's Scheffler? Why isn't Taylor Montgomery this year's Scheffler?
He could be. He's another guy right here at 8,300. Again, how do you not play him? So here's the other thing about him. This is what people always say about him. What is he? He's an off the tee guy that makes putts. How did Scotty Scheffler win this last year? Not saying it's going to be the same, but
it is, and he lost strokes on approach,
correct.
Which is kind of crazy. But that's not normally in the Scheffler profile. Normally he is very good on approach. Montgomery's not.
True.
Just straight up not
but
good.
But it just showed that you
irons.
didn't require it. Is Montgomery going to keep it in play? Likely. Is he going to be able to get, making some putts? We don't know. Usually he is, though. And if that's the case, that could be a factor here. And then he's $600 less than Cam Young at what? 10 to 12% versus close to 20%?
I did like something that Joe pointed out from Fantasy National was if you go into the fairways and greens section, that he just kind of made the note, knowing this course so well, looking at the topography of everything, all the dangers to the left.
Yeah.
On this course.
The Thigala point he brought up was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting too. Now, Scheffler doesn't fit that mold recently, but he's a very good driver of the ball anyway. He just hits a lot of fairways. But in terms of missing left or missing right, you can look at that. Who avoids missing left? Who avoids missing right? And you just see, Rory has a bad propensity to miss left. Bad.
Out on Rory, X amount.
Well, I have to. I'm not playing 150 lineups. So
no, I know.
I now need reasons to not use these guys.
Yeah, I don't mind this one because it is, like you said, some of this comes from knowing the course and having that, and then having the stat for it is interesting. I'm not sure the full samples on it, but in general.
No, I just think if you're trying to play into what can you do, and listen, guys are gonna know, hey, I can't miss left. Yeah. So maybe their shots are different.
And they can over-adjust too and make that mistake back the other way. So what did you have for some of these other guys? Who are some others?
I just thought it was interesting to look down the list. Now, some of them, when we take a look at it, are just guys like Morikawa doesn't miss left or right. He hits the fairway. Same as Tom Kim, which is a huge advantage in something like this, obviously. Yeah. Cage Lee is another one. I was just thinking about Sungjae when it came down to it. Because he kind of never misses left. The right is his miss. I think he's played really well at what I would consider to be complementary courses to this. So when you have that little range of Victor, Sungjae, Fitz, Cam Young, Tom Kim, I think I like Hideki more than Sungjae, but I do like Sungjae a lot.
I like Sungjae more than both Hideki and Tom. But I'm always on Sungjae. People know this by now probably. I just think in general, all the stuff we'll talk about with Sungjae just fits. Fairways, greens, always comes down to putter, but that's why he's always in the mix. And then it just, how does it go down the stretch? We've seen him. I was there live as he closed it out at the Honda that year, and just incredible stuff. It's, the guy is very talented.
Kevin Tway.
My dad was happy last week.
Was that a legitimate double eagle?
I believe.
I didn't look any more into it. I saw it. I texted it to you.
That was the conversation. There was no footage of it.
That's great. Just great stuff.
Standard stuff,
great
man.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And even to look at it a little bit deeper, I just went to sand saves gained over the past 36 rounds. A lot of the guys who are great out of the sand, shockingly enough, have played really well at this course over time.
Yeah, that matters too, for sure.
So like Lowry is someone on my radar at 8,200. He's won Desert Golf over in the Middle East before. Dude just can't putt. Like, he was top 10 in Abu Dhabi, and he was, I think, top 3 tee to green the week after. He came like 30th. Dude lost like 20 strokes putting.
Yeah,
which he'll do.
Heard people betting him too. So
it's a good night. It's like 80-1 or something. Like, he's a legit Lowry. Like, when you go down the board on DraftKings Sportsbook and look at the odds, like, you see the names at 80-1. And not to say that like Harmon can't win or Mitchell can't win. Lowry is a different class of player than those guys.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. That's where it comes into a challenge of, how many guys can you fit in here? Because that's the other thing. He's still in that 8K range of, we just talked about a bunch of them. Hatton, Montgomery, Lowry, Fleetwood, Fowler, all these guys there, and then the ones at the top that are getting a little love.
Okay, how about this?
How do you get them all?
Let's just try to narrow it down to 2 here. So we'll go from 8,500 down to Keegan. Because Keegan, it seems like Keegan and Connors are both plays. Theegala or Hatton?
Hatton for me.
Hatton or Montgomery?
Pretty equal. I do like Montgomery the best of this range. I'll just say that now.
Okay, so we'll take Montgomery out. He's your play. Hatton or Lowry?
Hatton.
I like Lowry.
I like Hatton.
Okay, so Hatton or Fleetwood?
Still Hatton.
Hatton or Fowler?
Still Hatton.
Hatton or Day?
Day.
Really? Day or Siwoo?
Day.
Day or Horschel?
Day is my Montgomery.
Okay, so Day and Montgomery.
Take him out of all these.
So Day. So it's for you. It's Montgomery, Day, and then Hatton.
Pretty much.
So I think I like Montgomery and Lowry, and I think those might be the only 2 that I play here.
So Montgomery, damn, that's my guy. So, but the Lowry Hatton we can have. For a first.
I mean, I don't feel as strongly about that, but I just don't. I think picking one of Hatton, Lowry, or Fleetwood makes a lot of sense because just I'm not seeing any other. Like, Lowry will probably be the highest owned of those 3, but it's not prohibitive by any means.
What was the course when Feinberg was it the Honda? It was
the Honda.
Well, when he was yelling at Fleetwood?
Yeah.
Tommy. Yeah.
That actually weirdly has been a course over the years where
it just keeps clicking in my mind. That's similar.
Well, just Honda. The guys that play well at Honda are the guys that play well at this course. I don't know if it's just the same people play this course in that tournament.
That's what I wondered. I just thought about that. So it is interesting. But
like JT.
We just talked about Sungjae 2 minutes ago, and then it made me think of Feinberg yelling at Fleetwood, and then we were just talking about Fleetwood, and he could be the guy that comes out of this range at just 8,100.
And who's the other one who always plays well there? Like, Lowry blows it every single year, but he does play well.
Bad weather, Pat. He got the bad weather.
He got the one hole.
He really did get the bad draw, and then he did it like 220 or something on that drive. It was just frustrating for him. But yeah, that's a guy. It makes sense from that perspective, definitely.
I remember I had Hatton at Honda one year, and I think he led everyone by 6 strokes tee to green and lost like 9 strokes putting. It was just the most tilting thing in the world.
Yeah,
you're the Bryson one.
You get the classic when he flips the putter around and he just wants to blow himself up. So yeah, I could see Fleetwood coming through here as well. I guess I have a tougher time with Ricky when we just go through it that way, when you start looking at all the other stuff around him.
Like if Ricky was 7,300 where he should be, he'd be a really good play. But at 8,000, and it's not like he's unowned. Like if he was 1% owned, then yeah, sure, take your flyer. But if he's going to be higher owned than Fleetwood and Hatton, like it doesn't make any sense for me to play him.
The thing is, what do you got him coming in at? Because if he's 5 to 7 or
I was going to say like 8%. I've seen it. I don't think like the sharp people are going to use Ricky this week. That would be my guess, but I've seen him written enough times. And this is the first DraftKings tournament this year where I think you're going to see more of a casual influence rather than the people that have been playing the first 5 weeks because Super Bowl is going on. People actually do respond to this. It's the people's major. Yeah. So people are going to get more fired up to throw in a DraftKings lineup. And they'll say, oh, Ricky Fowler's won at this event. They may have watched Farmers 2 weeks ago. Hey, there's Ricky. I tweeted out about Ricky, about how the PGA Tour wants to still make Ricky happen.
For sure.
Anytime he does something good, you see it on TV. They put him on the leaderboard when he's tied with way better players. It's Ricky who ends up moving to the top. And I was like, this is a bit much. And Ricky people in my mentions be like, Ricky is back. How dare you disrespect Ricky? It's like, calm down, fellas. And I'm the guy who drafted him in our season-long draft. I think he can turn it around, but he's not at this level of player right now.
I'm pretty sure they've got to be giving him a few bucks for sticking around, because he was definitely rumored in the beginning to move to live. And with Tiger and JT and all those guys sticking back, I'm pretty sure, Ricky had to get his shit together and did so. And now he's on the pact or whatever and all that stuff. So we'll see. But
what is that, by the way?
It's like, what is it against? Like the players?
I just saw Tiger and Rahm and Rory. And Ricky is on it?
I believe so. And I don't know. There's a bunch of guys on this, and I guess they just are trying to look out for everybody, and that's where people bring their complaints to and try and fix the tour and help it out. But I don't know enough about that side of the business. So I don't want to speak on it too much, but I just know, again, with Ricky, the fact that he's sticking around, getting better, back with Harman, new caddy, all these factors people are bringing up. And yeah, it's shown. He played better at the Farmers. It was like a T11 or something like that. But here, when it's all, I guess here's the thing. I think a tournament sprinkle makes sense, because if he is only 8%, I do think there is something to it. Pat, I talk about all the time, paying up for probability, where not as many people are going to want to pay 8K. And this is the example I always give of, okay, you're hearing his name mentioned. People are even betting him. But in DFS on DraftKings at 8K, are people clicking the button? That's what I wonder when you have Jason Day, who people are definitely clicking the button on. Lowry's getting some. Taylor Montgomery's getting some. Sahith's getting some. It just can't be 15% Ricky here. Just can't.
No, I agree with
Not that you were saying it. I'm saying that's why you can still get a choice of going there if you're going to take. Let me finish the point real quick. All I was going to say is that I'm not going to sprinkle as much in the 7K range as others are, because people are going to say it's littered down there. I'm going to sprinkle around, hope to hit the right guy. I'm going to actually take stands in the 7K and 6K range and sprinkle the top with unique price guys like Ricky, 8,000. He's the only guy at 8,000. When you go above him, nobody has the same price, versus at 7,100, you've got 6 guys or something. That's my point of how I do it, and that's why I'm going to be okay with getting some Ricky, but I don't love him at 8K this week. I've talked about my favorite guys there.
So the issue becomes, Ricky is going to be more owned than Fleetwood. And who would you rather have between those two? I'd rather have Fleetwood. Not that I love Fleetwood by any means, but even Horschel. Horschel's on a bad run right now. He's played well at this tournament. He's another guy almost in the same Sam Burns vein. He just wins.
Yeah. So
he might play absolute dog shit, but he might win too. I don't think Ricky's going to win.
No, I don't. But I guess that was my take on Monday with this whole range. When you get to Ricky Fowler, the Aaron Wises of the world, I'm not as high on, I guess, but who else? Brian Harmons, the Brendan Steeles. People are betting these guys.
I'm not betting the Steele. I bet Davis Thompson. I like Davis Thompson at $7,100.
Fair, and he was literally in the mix a couple weeks ago, so you go with it. I'm just saying, again, we're always going to take a few shots. Anyway, that's what we do. But my point is, I don't need these guys to win at these prices. Not that you were saying that. Others are just I don't need to bet them, but I can play them, no problem, because I think that's what you want. You want the guys that have the upside, that usually they crumble on Sunday or they don't close or whatever, but then you get the T10 out of them. Brandon Wu last week, second place. He's 64.
Brendan
Todd. Say these guys, that's just what they do. And Malnati ended up coming through for people. He was in winning lineups too, the price tag.
To look at it with Davis Thompson, I was just surprised that he wasn't more popular this week. Only because the big narrative this week in terms of the stats has been, when you go take a look at it, driving is almost as important as approach on this course, which is a huge outlier from almost every other course on tour when you go back and look at the top 5 finishers, top 10 finishers on average. And he's one of the best drivers of the ball on tour. Just every week, just gaining strokes. And then the majority of the weeks, he's also hitting his irons really well. It's just he usually is awful on the greens. But we've seen these greens be a huge neutralizer over the years. Bad putters have won this event.
Yeah. I don't know how Hideki was putting when he won. I'm assuming pretty well, but we know that he was never really a great putter. He's been great, actually, recently, surprisingly, but just in general.
He putts well on fast greens.
We're going to get fast greens here by Sunday. I can tell you that.
He's putt well at Memorial, too. Another tournament that he's won. Rahm has won there. Rahm has obviously played well here. Justin Thomas has played well at Muirfield Village. Patrick Cantlay has played well at Muirfield Village. Colin Morikawa has played well at Muirfield Village. So you see a big mix of bad putters and good putters when we talk about that. But predominantly, those are bad putters. Cantlay's not. Cantlay's good.
Yeah, and like I said, but you also have Patrick Camput has been in plenty of Discords and Slack channels around the world, week in, week out. There's weeks that he does. That's the thing about good putters, that you're good till you're not any given week, right? You can have Hideki not come through on the fast greens this weekend.
So the years that Hideki won, The most he's ever gained on the greens in this tournament is 2.4 strokes putting.
What did Scheffler gain last year? Just get a comparison.
7.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I was just curious. That makes sense. But Hideki was also, when he was winning this tournament, the ball striking, I'm assuming, was very good.
Yes, he gained 10 strokes to green.
Yeah.
So, what do you make of Lucas Herbert? I thought he was going to be super popular, but it just turns out no one cares who Lucas Herbert is. Back-to-back T3s overseas, coming back for his first start of the season, $7,200. I thought he would be like 10% owned, one of the like decent guys down here, but as the week has gone on, it just turns out that is not the case.
Yeah, it looks more like 5-6% is what I'm seeing.
I like him here.
Yeah, I guess you can like the, what is it, 10th, 3rd, and 3rd? That's what he's coming back from?
Yeah. And good fields, too. Like, he wasn't just playing the scrub fields. I would consider last week's tournament a good field, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it was fair. I mean, I was sorry, his field was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were thinking about, I was thinking about...
No, not the Moronk and Bradbury or whatever the hell
Yes.
that guy's gay. No, he played against all the live guys.
Yeah,
he came
played,
3rd.
Yeah, the Saudi. Answer. Got the job done wire to wire.
Yeah, and Cam Young was there, too.
Yeah, Cam Young second.
Like, Cam Young gets an awful lot of credit for coming in second. You're like, oh, what good form. Herbert comes in 3rd. It's like, yeah, who cares?
It is still Herbert. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess the
Hey,
problem...
who has more wins on the PGA Tour, Cam Young or Lucas Herbert?
Herbert. This is funny. Yeah, this range, though, it's just, like I said, I don't know. He's not going to make it for me, I don't think, because I like Steele, who you brought up. I like the guys above, the Harmons, the Mitchells, the popular plays, but they're popular for a reason, like they pop.
See, I like Mitchell.
Poston.
I can do that. I'm just not going to get there with Brian Harmon this week, although it is a big downgrade in terms of his price. Davis Thompson, I do like at $7,100. We can start making lineups. It's funny. What about Pendrith now? Because this felt like more, because I was talking about course fit last week, and I was wrong about this because he made that nice run on the Sunday. He finished on Sunday and just got in. So he ended up inside the top 10 at Pebble. I didn't think that was going to be a great course for him, but this feels like a really good course for him. A guy who bombs it in putts. He's like worse Taylor Montgomery.
That's what we brought that up. We said the Taylors this week. Is Kenny like Taylor Moore in his cash game cornerstones? And then we talked about Montgomery and Pendrith, and I added a Pendrith bet to the card at the end of the show. And I think it was 100, if I recall correctly, with 8 places. So maybe down from there now, but that was someone that we talked about. You said if he just pulls the Scheffler effect from last year, it could be a thing. So, yeah, I don't mind. I mean, he's definitely a good little pivot there when you look at Mitchell and Harmon at the exact same price, Poston right below. Just how does Pendrith get the ownership? I just can't see it. So you kind of got to mix him into your pool there as well. But he's one of the guys I'll be on in this range. KH Lee, another. Alex Noren is a guy I'm taking a shot on. To me, he's just like the Euro version of what we talked about with Lowry, Hatton, Fleetwood, just cheaper.
A guy I've been using every single week, and I assume people would use him this week, and it just doesn't seem to be coming to fruition again, is Chris Kirk. Guy just comes inside the top 10 every week. No one seems to care.
Yeah, he's a fair price, $7,300.
Yeah, and he is just, again, he's a pivot off those super high-owned guys. I mean, I'm going to have to mix in some Higo into the mix. When I was watching the highlight pack, I watched him make a 50-foot putt on 16, so that just sold me even more.
He's going to do it again.
You got Denny at 72. I think we want to relegate. We got to figure out the right way to deploy Denny. Maybe it's use him every week because he tends to make cuts, but like the weaker field or short course type stuff is his jam.
But then when he was 6,800 at the major last year, he was the nuts.
He's played well at one major in his career.
I'm just saying, yeah, it's tough to pinpoint. But to your point, it's been challenging because when he's cheap, you're like, oh, I'll play him, but it's because it's a strong field. And then when he's in the shorter course, weaker fields, he's 9,300 or something. So it's hard to really pinpoint and get right. You kind of just almost have to play him as one of those guys that can pop any given time as long as the course fit, to your point, is good.
Or the tournament fit is good for him, potentially.
Maybe.
So I don't want to play Hayden Buckley in the 6s. And before we start kind of building some more lineups out, I want to try to find 1 or 2 $6,000 guys that we could potentially go to that you'd feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
Is it
my guy Steven Yeager?
Yeah, I like Neesmith at 66.
I like Yeager bombs. I don't know. What about Vegas? What'd you say about him? You didn't like him?
I never really liked Johnny Vegas.
I thought he was fine. I mean, we were monitoring him coming back from injury last time out. I believe he was at 7,000. He ended up doing all right.
Yeah, he was 25th at the Farmers. Listen, I can see it. He does almost exactly what you want at this tournament, right? Yeah, okay, I'm throwing Vegas in.
I like Vegas. Man, what about Luke List? Talked about that Honda comparison, lost in the playoff to JT.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like where he's hitting his irons right now. And if that starts getting off the rails, like it'd be one thing if he was still gaining a bunch of strokes around the green. He's not. So if he's missing greens and he can't chip, we know he can't putt.
Yeah.
Like that reeks of +7.
It's going to be a problem for sure. And what about the heroes from last week, the Scott Stallings and Bo Hosslers at the top?
Yeah. Those are course history guys that came through last week.
Yeah. I kind of like Hossler still just because we know he can putt and typically is okay. He can get into trouble, but that's why, you're going to take some hits at your 6K guys, just the way it goes. But if he comes through, that could be a big difference. So I think he's an interesting one. And then do you want to go back to Brandon Wu at 6,400 after a big week? Or people are talking about Mark Hubbard at 6,300.
I think I'm good with Vegas and I'm good with Neesmith. And I don't know how much I really want to go down to the $6,000 range.
Yeah, by the way, my Joey B. Bramlett call last week, all good, still solid play. Neesmith was in the mix too, but my Boise Open win over Victor Hovland, that whole spiel was about Matt Neesmith. I forgot about that. I wanted to correct that on here today. But I always love Neesmith. He is the guy that I bring up for that matter, and he is 6,600. I just probably play more Jaeger in Vegas. I like Steven Jaeger. I'm on him for the season. Lipsky was another guy I considered.
I went down that road last week.
It's not.
I think he was a combined 12 over on the final 2 holes of each round.
Who's the guy? It was him, and there was somebody else last week.
Ben Taylor?
Oh, it was Callum Tarrant. They kept messing around. They'd have like a good. You're like, oh, they're back. It's a good round, and it's like, oh, when I play them, they're horrible.
Did Tarrant ended up having a heater on Saturday and made
Saturday
the cut.
crushed 7. I think he went 7 under on Saturday. But anyway, he's another guy at 6,700 with Lipsky there at 68.
He's been pretty good.
It's just so hitter. I just worry that if he has that Sunday round on Friday or Thursday, that see ya. Gone.
For sure. But, I mean, it was no different than Ben Griffin last week making a 10 on number 18.
Yeah.
That was devastating. But Tarrant made like either a triple or a quad.
I think he made a 9.
And then all of a sudden, he rallied to make the cut. Griffin almost made the cut, too.
Who?
Ben Griffin.
Oh, Griffin. Yeah. Everyone needed Griffin to make the cut, though.
Yeah, he did.
That's why.
So, McNeely. We mentioned him briefly, $7,500. Are you in or out?
I'm in on McNeely, yeah. McNeely, I like KH Lee better, but I'm in on McNeely there.
Okay, so I think that's good enough. The last one, you talked me out of James Hahn last week. James Hahn put up some good ball striking numbers again last week, missed the cut again, because that's what he does. This course has been one of his places, though. This, Riv, and Quail Hollow are like the 3 James Hahn courses.
Is he healthy?
I think so. Like, he's striking the ball great.
What did he get last week?
He missed the cut.
Yeah.
But he was, I mean, we only have the Pebble stats from him, because that's all that came through in ShotLink. He was gained a stroke, 1.2 off the tee, 1.7 on approach. And that's now 3 consecutive weeks of missed cuts, but gaining 2.2, 2.3, 1.7 on approach.
So maybe he's not broken, maybe just his putter is.
Yeah, it's just funny to look at his stats. Like, he doesn't actually seem to be that bad.
It's so weird. I talked to you about this last time, but him like begging to be on live. Why?
And he wants some cash.
Yeah, he must need the money. Maybe he's down bad. I don't know. But it's not working out on the course for him yet. So I don't know. I'm fine with being off him again.
Okay, so let's try to construct some lineups then.
Now that we've got our guys, let's do your mega. Who was your 6K guys? You said Neesmith.
Yeah, Neesmith's the cheapest of them.
And Vegas. Let's try this one.
All right, so Neesmith and Vegas.
And just to talk about why, Pat, real quick, for those like the reason I think this is so interesting is because neither are 6,800 like Buckley. And you're also not finishing on Buckley. You're finishing on 2 6K guys. This is again back to when people wonder about roster construction, things like that. That's something I'll think about here. You're switching it out. Like what I did earlier with Xander starting point. We didn't love it, but it looked good on paper. But when you flip it, that's the whole point of the build. Now he becomes your second guy in. Here, we're removing the 6.8K guy completely, but we're also landing on 2 less than him. So what we can do now, Pat, we have 91.75. Where do you want to go from here?
So here's what we can do. And it works out perfectly.
All right.
Ready for this?
Let's go.
Neesmith and Vegas, Rahm and Scheffler, Steele and Lowry.
Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, I like that. I kind of like that build. Why I like that build, I'll tell you, is and it projects about 10 to 12 points less. Again, just using projections for the example than what we had originally with like the Cantlay build there.
Are you talking about ownership or overall points?
Points.
Okay.
Ownership, this is going to be way lower owned. We're not on anybody with ownership except maybe Rahm. Scheffler's going to get squeezed some by Rahm, Rory, and the guys below. So it's like he'll get ownership, but not anything you got to worry about here. But what I was saying is the double flip here. You skip the 9K range completely, which you're going to have FOMO with that. There's 9 guys in there?
Who
8
could all
guys
win?
in there?
Guys that I bet on to win are
It's
all in the
all
9
kinds
Ks.
of win equity in there. So there's that. The example I already gave about the 6K range. And the last point would be the 7K version of what you did here. We have only one 7K guy, and it's nobody from 73 to 7,700, which is sort of your Keegan Bradley 7,700 down to your Poston 7,300 with, of course, Mitchell, Harmon, Hoagie, Lee in between. You've skipped all that as well.
So the other way you can play that exact same lineup with the core 4, if let's say, because I like Rahm and Scheffler more than I like Rory, that's why I'm pairing those two together. Obviously, you get a bit of a discount on Scheffler over Rory with Vegas and Neesmith. Instead of doing Lowry and Steele, you can do Connors and Keegan.
So doing Lowry and Steele, you can do Connors and Keegan.
If that's more palatable to you, because I know that those two are going to be more popular than the other two, but I like both those guys anyway.
It projects a little better, got about 4 points better for us, and then the difference of that is now, again, you still do, again, this is a cool way to look at it, like you flipped it again, you still skipped, you kept Keegan in there, but you still skipped the 73 to 7,600, which, like I said, is the most common with Harmon, Mitchell, Lee, Poston, and one more, Hoagie. You skipped all those guys. So I still don't mind that flip that you just did there, right? That makes sense to me.
Just remember, as someone who has played a lot of Brendan Steele over the years, don't be super stunned when he's like +7 after 7 holes in a chalk spot, because that happens to Brendan Steele.
Do we think he's going to be that chalky though?
I think he'll be like 10% out.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that bad. Even if you want to bump him to like 7.5% or something, I don't think he's a horrible play.
I don't think he's a horrible play either. I'm just saying that this goes when you. Same as Keegan. Like, you're going to get these events where there's a reason they're terrible putters, and they will just start missing 3-foot putts out of nowhere.
So what you're saying is you're going to be saying, why the hell did I play Brendan Steele when my guy Higo was right there at the exact same price?
That's why I'm still playing Higo.
Yeah. You
got
to make every Steele lineup you have as a duplicate with Higo in it.
So let's see if I can finagle this one. What does 8,700? It gets me Burns. I like Burns more.
Yeah, I know. You mentioned him earlier.
So you can do some variation of this lineup. Now, if you went down to the 6s, this works out much better, I think, and we can try that version. I mean, I like Thomas and Morikawa. There's a reason that I bet on those two guys to win. I think you can start your lineups with those guys if you wanted to. Like, realistically, in another version of this tournament, like, yes, Rory, Rahm, and Scheffler are 1, 2, 3 at the top, along with Finau. But if they had priced Justin Thomas, he's $9,800. If they had priced him 10-2 just behind Scheffler, like, would that mean people aren't playing him? People would still play Justin Thomas. Like, he's too cheap.
Yeah. It's not as bad as the time he was 8,900 and I wanted to fade him and then he won, and I did fade him and he won, and that one hurt. But yeah, this is still a pretty cheap price for a guy like him, assuming he makes the cut and gets through. It just depends on what that putter does, man. That's
and he's been so streaky at this tournament over the years. I think it was.
His history here is really good. I think his worst is like a 17th or something.
Yeah, in the past 6 years. Like, he's been really, he just hasn't won. Same as Rahm. Like, I don't think Rahm's finished worse than 13th at this tournament.
He just also hasn't finished better than 9th. Is that what it is? That's crazy. It's like
he's just there every year, and then it doesn't click coming down. Xander's another one. Like, Xander's,
they need the hole-in-one on 16.
Or the chip, the eagle on 17 is imperative to winning this tournament.
Yeah, these guys got to get that job done, and then they'll show up there. But what do you got here if you go to...
Thomas and Morikawa to start.
Yep.
Davis, Thompson, and Brendan Steele at the bottom. So 72 and 71. KH Lee and Sam Burns. Now you can interchange those 7K players with whoever you want, really. Did you say
Poston?
No, I said Davis Thompson.
Oh, Steele. Sorry, I got him.
Steele and Davis Thompson.
It left the money for Poston on what I had, but you used Steele at 7,200. You have $100 left if you wanted Poston at 73. But we like Steele. Yeah,
if you want to use Spieth. So you can play that lineup, or we can now dip into the 6s if we wanted to, and really make this like a 3-prong super stud lineup.
Quick note before we do that, this is by far the worst projected by a mile.
Oh, I could see that.
It's like 40 points less than our original.
Well, it's because I'm starting – because how much does Davis Thompson project for?
Not much. That's why. I was just going to say he's bad, and then when you take out – we got rid of like Rahms and Schefflers. Again, JT Morikawa aren't the worst projection, but they're going to project lower than the 10K guys, just the way it shakes out. Again, projections aren't everything. We use it for this example and this experiment, if you will. But what are you going to do here?
So
what are we swapping?
Let's drop Davis Thompson to Neesmith.
Your boy.
And then we can take Sam Burns out, and we can get to Sungjae. So you go JT Morikawa, Sungjae, Steele, KH Lee, Neesmith.
That's better. Yeah.
I just like this Thomas Morikawa start. I think they're both great players. And it just allows you more flexibility with that third guy. You can get like a legit third guy now.
What is the 3 9K build if we just That was the 3.9K.
That is the
Sorry,
3.9K
that is the 3.9K build. Sorry. What was the ones you said earlier, though? It was Morikawa. Oh, because Xander's 10K. The original thing you said, though, was Morikawa, Xander, and Cantlay or Hideki? And Cantlay.
And Cantlay. Or you could drop Morikawa to Hideki if you wanted to because it's cheaper.
Yeah, I just wonder like how if people can get to this because Cantlay is the one on the projection sites. I'm just saying that projects
the best
to be good
per
because
dollar.
He projects as I'm underpriced. Justin Thomas isn't, if you will. That's the best way to put
And
it. Like,
I could see that because the projections that most people look at, like when it spits it out, are going to be like median projections, right?
Yeah.
And the consistency of Patrick Cantlay is almost unmatched.
yeah.
But
And like you said, long term too, and just what we've seen and what his capabilities are. I was just literally lost in a playoff here last year.
Oh, of course.
Should have won, by the way, if I remember watching that one.
Well, no, because Scheffler had that like 3-foot putt to win on the 72nd hole and pushed it right.
Yeah, I forget what. Yeah, that's true as well. I forgot. That's what it was. He had his chances.
It was like Homa Homa the year before when he had the two footer to beat Finau and missed it.
Yeah, that's
and then
right.
beat him in a
I
playoff.
remember now. So you're right. Yeah.
So you could go Xander, Cantlay, Hideki, or Sungjae because you like Sungjae more, right?
Yeah. So you want to take Kawa out of this? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, we can take Kawa. I mean,
I want to use Sungjae.
I would prefer to have Kawa in it, but let's just go through Xander, Cantlay, Sungjae.
So this leaves us 7,100.
So Steele, Davis, Thompson, Poston.
No, I want to do my version for once.
Okay.
You're the host, but I'm taking over.
Let's hear it.
I like Vegas. I'm going with guys you like too, but I want to go with my Vegas play
Okay.
that I said.
Jaeger.
And then and I could do Jaeger, but I think
Jaeger would get you up to Ricky, I think.
let me do that version in a second. I want to play my guy Steele that we talked about. Just guys that I know I'm taking a stand on, and that lets me pick my $7,400 guy.
You love Mitchell.
I like
But you said
Mitchell.
Pendrith is a nice pivot off that.
Yeah, Mitchell, Harmon, Pendrith. I don't even know how I would round it out, but
I prefer Mitchell far and away above those guys.
yeah, it gets close. I'm still 8 points away from my previous. So let's take Steele out, go down to my Jaeger bombs play, skip that lower 7K range. It lands on Ricky.
But you like
Suns.
you like
I like Day better.
You like Day better.
Yeah, so I would play Day more likely there, but just to have it, just to look at it, that is interesting. So yeah, these are pretty good lineups, Pat.
Like let's.
That one, by the way, is only 6 points away from our original.
How much better projection wise is Xander than Homa, Thomas, or Morikawa?
He's about 6 points ahead of Morikawa, who's next in line.
Okay, so if you just dropped Shoffley to Morikawa in this lineup,
Okay.
you could take Day up to Lowry if you wanted to.
Or Taylor Montgomery.
Or really? You can get to Montgomery?
Yeah, but kind of like the Lowry play better now that you said that. I don't know. That one's tougher for me, but it's not projecting as well, but it's close.
It's not, but if you just had to think about it logically, like a 2v2, like if you had to put Morikawa versus Xander in trying to win a GPP, I feel like Morikawa is always the better player because he wins more.
Yeah, it's tough because, again, like you're talking about
He might let you down. The most.
accolades and stuff and what he's done. And obviously, he got shit for last season, but it was like, what do you want from the guy? He'd already won 2 majors, multiple
he's
events.
getting shit this year for coming in second and third.
Yeah, it's like he always blows leads, Pat. You had to come in second.
Yeah, can't close. Won like 6 times in 2 majors.
Yeah, so it's tough. But yeah, that does make some sense there. If you say like, okay, better question. You did the Homa versus JT thing early, and that's whatever. We talked about literally is a coin flip. Max Homa is on the scene now, et cetera, et cetera. Great. But Morikawa versus JT, if you could only pick one.
Probably JT.
Think so?
Yeah, I do.
Man,
Like,
that's close, yeah.
I think, but I mean, those are 2 of my favorite players. So I think that I do not come to this objectively.
Yeah.
Like I'm just always going to lean with those guys. The reason that I always end up betting Morikawa, because I always feel like he's somewhat disrespected in the odds market a lot of the times, especially at Open, where they'll hang these big numbers on him, and then it gets beat down during the week. With Justin Thomas, normally you just see like bad numbers on him. Then I looked at it this week, I was like, oh shit, 24-1. Okay, done.
When I think of JT and Cantlay too, though, because they both fit in here, and I was talking about them earlier, because now we're going down a little bit more. JT or Cantlay, if you can only pick one.
Well, you could go in this lineup.
You can still get to JT.
You could go Morikawa to JT and use Lowry still.
That's what I just did. Yeah, it works better. It looks the best. But it made me think then, and you're the best at knowing this stuff, like the who did well where. But remember we talked about Memorial a little bit earlier? Mm-hmm. What do you think of that? Like you mentioned it a little bit. Like if you had your Memorial lineup, let's do a Raza for a second here, and just say like if you were building it out, we know that I think JT and Cantlay have both played pretty well there. Hideki.
Morikawa.
has played well there. I mean, Morikawa for sure, but now I don't have enough money for all of them. So of those 4, who would you pick?
Rahm and Finau have also played really well there.
That would be a different build.
It would be.
Horschel just won the thing.
Did he? Did he win Muirfield? He did, didn't he?
Yeah.
He's another guy who played well here last year.
7,800, and he's played well at some of the other courses we talked about, like the Honda and things like that. Like
Players.
So he fits. Who are the best of those 4 9K guys we said, though, if you were thinking about Muirfield? Definitely Cantlay.
Cantlay is probably number 1 on that list.
Yeah.
I think Thomas is actually the worst of the bunch.
He might be, but there was that one year when him and Cantlay were having like a little stare down. I remember this, and I was like, man, that's such a good battle. Cantlay versus JT at the time. But
And Cantlay won it, and then JT, remember they played the back-to-back tournaments at Muirfield?
Yep. With him and Morikawa in
And
the playoff.
Morikawa
the
beat
big
him in the
putt.
playoff. And then Cantlay beat Morikawa in a playoff to win Memorial. So Morikawa and Cantlay are the answers to this question.
Okay, so let's do it this way. Cantlay, Morikawa, Horschel. Now we need some values. Who are some of the values that you remember playing well
Higo.
at Memorial?
Higo.
Higo?
I mean, he played it once and came like 5th or something.
Yeah, I mean, that plays in a lineup like this because you're already different enough and you're unique. I'm just trying to look at it from that perspective.
I'm going to load it up here. On average, strokes gained total. Cantlay, Scheffler, Rahm, Kuchar, Matt Wallace are your top 5. Davis Riley in 4 rounds as well.
Kuchar, he must have rounds there, and he also fits the bill.
Kuchar has 36 rounds there.
And he played well. He plays really well here. Course history.
He has. Thigala in 8 rounds has played really well at Memorial.
No way.
Yeah.
I literally just built the lineup and landed on 8,500. Was scrolling up, and you said Thigala.
So what's the lineup? It's Morikawa, Cantlay.
Morikawa, this projects so bad, by the way. By far the worst, even worse than your other version. But it's Cantlay. Sorry, it's Morikawa, Cantlay, Thigala, and then it goes Horschel, Kuchar, Higo.
So I'll throw out some other names here. Yeah, Higo is inside the top 10. He's just above Xander, just above Homa. Aaron Wise actually plays well. Spieth, Aaron Rye. That's only 4 rounds. Francesco Molinari, who played well he was the leader over in Europe like 3 weeks ago.
What is he, 7K this
7K.
week?
He has a hole-in-one on 16, too. Great 16 history for him.
That was hilarious. I got to say this 2 seconds here because we did all that course fit back and forth last week. And then somebody was telling me in our Discord about round history, was trying to sell me on this with Seamus Power being bad on Monterey Peninsula like 3 years in a row or something.
Is that the one where he went 7 under this year?
That's the one he absolutely smashed this year. I think it was 7 or 8 under, bogey free with a streak or something like that. And I had him in my core plays. I was like, all right, buddy, we'll do round history conversation after the round. He just absolutely annihilated it. These things that people come up with are just crazy. I thought that was funny, but you brought up 16th hole history.
I just remember when I was scrolling through all the highlights, it's like, watch Francesco Molinari hole-in-one on 16. I remember that too.
So we got to get Sam Ryder and Molinari in a lineup.
Yeah.
Sam Ryder.
Who else? I
We're not doing that lineup. We're not doing
Carlos Ortiz is on live, so we can't do that
Can't
anymore.
do that one. But that is funny that Memorial lineup landed on the name as I was looking for that price point.
So of all the lineups we've built, when we're thinking about 3 max or single entry, what do you think is the preferred type of build? I think that actually those like Rahm, Scheffler lineups, if you feel good enough about Vegas, Neesmith, or whoever the 2 6K guys are, I think those look really good. But those like balanced 9K ones are pretty legit, I think.
They're legit, and then the double 10K is going to be my favorite always because people just don't commit to it. They want to start with the guy up there and then get their 9K guys in that they want. This all makes sense. Cash lineups, etc. All those make sense. I know everyone says, what's cash in golf? Of course it can still hit. That's why you play, like Kenny always says, play your cash lineup in tournaments. But I'm saying if you want a way to just get different right away, it's what I said. If Xander's not your first guy in like most, and he becomes your second guy in with your choice of a Scheffler, Rahm, Rory, those lineups stood out the most to me. And you don't have to go off the map here, Pat. Like here's our best projected one. And I don't think it's the best lineup. I'm just saying it's our best projected was the Rory, Xander. And then you got your chalk, Harmon, chalk Mitchell, chalk KH Lee, lands you on chalk Buckley. That's why I don't love the lineup. I'm saying, but that still actually projects the best, and that is not going to be the most common roster construction, even though it features most of the chalk plays, not who you play, it's how you play them. Most people playing those guys are getting off Buckley and Rory to somebody in that mid-tier range that obviously is going to look better on paper.
Even if you didn't like that build, you like that build, but like you're uncomfortable with Buckley, you can just turn Rory into Scotty and Buckley into Steele.
Again, you just
but that's the same variation of that lineup.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think we're going to see. What do you think the most common 2 start is? I think it's going to be Xander, Cam Young. And Cam Young might end up being the third guy in there, but I think when people go clicking, those are the first 2 clicks.
Yeah, Cam Young for sure in there. I just, now that you
I'm not playing Cam Young, by the way.
You've got me sold on this build being very popular now, so I just want to see how it actually shakes out.
What, Cam Young?
It leaves $200 on the table, but it does actually project the best. The version you just flipped it to?
Yeah.
Because it was
With
Rory
Scheffler?
to Scheffler, Steele, up from
Buckley?
But you actually still have $200. I'm not sure where you spend it because everyone's pretty heavily owned, but you could get off of...
You get to Higo.
No, you can't. You get the same money. I'm saying you could either go 74 to 76.
And there's no one really at 76,
or
is there?
75. I guess you'd go KH Lee.
If you really liked
Bradley?
Wise or Norin or Power, that would be the name to land on. I like KH Lee, though.
Yeah. Mitchell still projects better than most of the guys above. Again, projections are what they are. I'm just using it for this experiment, but I think that is maybe the best version of it that we can get to.
All right. Toe Tag and Tambo. The tidbits are already out. I read them.
They're good this week. They're good every week, but like some weeks you'll find better ones and people talk about it all the time.
People are super jazzed for this week. I'm super jazzed for this week.
Yeah. This is a great week. It's my favorite. It leads right into the Super Bowl. Gotta love that. You know, the field is designated now, so it gets even stronger than it usually is. When we've seen, this is, again, to me, the first version of that. I know the Tournament of Champions counted, and obviously that field is stacked, but it's Tournament of Champions with additions of guys that probably could have or should have won. So that's going to be good. But the one like this sets up for me when you have the cut line experience with it, I should say, Pat, reminds me so much of what we're going to see a lot this year about the RBC Canadian. Last year, it was not a strong field or designated event by any means.
But we got the right guys in the right spot.
But we got the right guys at the end, and that's what I'm saying for this week, where you know that's going to happen in this field. It's just the way it's going to work out, especially as it bakes out over the weekend. Guys grind through and make the cut. The cream should rise to the top, and that's what we're going to see here. So
the cream rises to the top. Yeah,
that's right. We're going to get it.
And if your guy just sneaks through the cut line, they're not done.
They're not done.
We've seen that enough at this tournament where just even making it on the number is good. You can go post a -10 at this course.
Yeah.
Just got to be hot. Like all these, you can't, it's weird just even to look at it. Like, it's just don't make the crippling mistake at this course because there's enough eagles and birdies out there for everyone.
Easier said than done.
No, I agree with
there,
you.
but yeah, you're right. That's what it comes down to every year. And again, there's the other thing about this course. Remember, this is the last thing I'll say. But the tilt on Sunday that exists down that stretch when it really matters. I always tell people you don't need to check your lineups till the end when you're sweating it for real money. But this is one of those courses. Forget the other one up and over the water, but they have to go for it on 17.
3M.
Yeah, 3M. That's what it is. People get pissed off because they lose all this money at the end of Sunday at this tournament, especially. But your guy has to go for it. He needs that eagle, so he's going for it. And if it trickles into the water and your lineup dies because of it, it sucks because your guy's going from second with a chance to win to possibly fifth or worse, and you lose all those position placement points, the bogey or double from the hole. It's hard to make double.
And the other guys are getting potential eagles and birdies and flipping it the other way.
Yes.
On you. It's a huge swing.
Huge swing on Sunday with that. If the tournament's tight, and we've seen a lot of playoffs.
Yeah, 5 of the past 7 years. And it is worth noting, like even to go back when I was watching the Brooks Sunday, like he wasn't really in it until 10. Like, you just need to tread water on the front and then just go score on the back.
He had that chip in, and then all of a sudden it went from there. It was like that.
He had the chip in on 17, but he two-putted for eagle on both of the par 5s. Like, he had put it pretty close. He had birdied 2 other ones in between. Like,
you're not out of it.
You need to be like 5 under on the back on Sunday, and that's how you win this tournament.
So I'm glad I left my betting card a little empty as well this week.
Go hit.
I added a 5th. I forgot I did add Pendrith on Monday, but that was the last of it, so we'll see.
I had live bet James Hahn the year that Brooks won. I had Brooks just from pre-tournament, and going in, he was playing with Brooks that day, and he was 100-1 going into Sunday. He was up by 3 at the turn. Yeah, and then he James Hahn'd it.
That's crazy. I do remember that now from Twitter and following along with it. But Brooks that year, I believe, was also the 40-1. Like, what is this number? That's like what we've done this year with Burns.
And I mean, that's what I did with Hideki. I got him at 41. Yeah. I was like, what is this number?
Yeah, that's fair.
So
it's definitely the way to do it. Ricky's 80. People are saying that, but to me, it's not the same.
I don't think it's the same. And maybe I'll be proven completely wrong on that, and Ricky will have a fantastic tournament and win. I'd be happy. Listen,
when Ricky's in the mix, the buzz is incredible.
Oh, listen, it's a lot like Spieth all those years. Like when he was bad, anytime that he would just muster himself into a tournament, it felt like it was more exciting. The issue was that the broadcast would try to wedge him into it when he wasn't in it. Yeah. And that's what I didn't like. But once he started playing well again, and again, this was the tournament 2 years ago.
Now my wheels are spinning. That's what I was just
when it happened for him, it's like, oh, he's like winning. Like
you said that about Spieth earlier, and that now could be the Ricky spot. Ricky's been down. Now he's slowly coming back, and now this ends up being the place that he gets right at. Why wouldn't it be?
That would actually be kind of awesome.
That would be cool. Like I said, that's going to be exciting no matter what. I think he is a good tournament play because as much as people are mentioning him, are they clicking the button? I don't know. Meaning, I don't see Ricky 15 as much as I see Ricky 8.5 or something for ownership.
I agree. Still like Lowry more.
Yeah, I probably agree too.
All right. Where can everyone? Are you doing a show tonight on Run Pure?
Yeah, we'll do this afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern. That's a premium only show, and then we'll be back right here on the Mayo Media Network. You can check us out. It's with Run Pure Sports, but it's a free show every Thursday and Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern. We do start it, just so those out there watching this know. You got to subscribe. If you haven't already done so, you should, to the Mayo Media Network so you get the notifications bell, because we start when the round ends. We just have it set up that way because of obviously time zones, but we're ready to go. We want to get the information out as soon as possible. It's a short enough window as is, and it's the best way to look at it. We had on round 2 last week, the show that we did. I didn't get there, but I got close, but we did have the winner of the flagship tournament for $50K, and we had another guy come in second in the 555. Both of them credited the show, so tune into that one. It's a free show every week on this channel.
And listen, there's there's just not a lot of showdown content for golf.
Yeah.
There's a few people who do it really well, you guys included. That's why I wanted to get it on Mayo Media Network, so the people out there can watch it for free and go set their lineup. So follow Tambo on Twitter, @ToeTaggingTambo. There's fewer than 200 spots remaining in the Listeners League as I check in on it now. No begging people this week to join. No. People are fired up for golf again, so go get your spot if you haven't got it already. Smash the like to the episode, sub to Mayo Media Network, and fantasynational.com/Mayo to get yourself that 20% off, and runthesims.com completely free this week for the Super Bowl. So go give it a test drive. Just need an email. The newsletter link is down in the description, so sub to that if you want to get the full betting card, ownership, Tambo's tidbits, all in one place for you, sent directly to your email. People love it. Many people say it's the best. I would agree with that. And you will too if you sub. I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!